So, welcome back to this yucca plant, which you may remember a year or two ago, we gave it a bit of a prune and we had some new shoots have come from where we pruned a year or two ago. I'll put a little photograph in afterwards, a close-up so you can see. But the proud owner of this lovely plant wants to get it back under control because, as you can see, it's kind of touching the ceiling and going quite wide. So it's time for a prune, and we know that these plants will shoot again from wherever we prune, and we also know that there's a good chance that we can make some babies from the bits that we cut off. And just to demonstrate that, here's some of those shoots that we cut off a year or two ago, and look at that, just by putting them in some compost with some loving care from the plant owner, and they're growing away well. So I'm going to see if we can do the same with the bits that we're going to cut off today. You have to remember that all the way along these trunks there are dozens, if not hundreds, of dormant buds just waiting to grow. So take a deep breath. Cutting number one. Cutting number two. And this last one I'm going to cut really right down at the bottom. This plant looks how I feel when I've been to the barbers, you know. We've taken away a lot of that growth, but now all that energy that was going to all those shoots is now going to be concentrated into where we've cut the stems, and within a month or two we'll have lots and lots of nice new shoots that will give us a nice compact rounded shape rather than that slightly straggly shape. And then step two of this here video will be when I go back up to the school now, where I go in the greenhouse, and we're going to see if we can get some cuttings, some new plants out of these bits that we cut off. Stick with us, don't go away. Right, so now we're on to step two. I've come up to the school and we're doing this in the middle of summer. It's late July, which is perhaps a bit later than I would like to do it. This, particularly when we're potting on some new cuttings. I'd perhaps like to do it earlier in the summer, late spring, something like that. But I think we can make this work. And certainly when I look at the bottom of this particular trunk here, this stump, you can see there's some roots there and some more just there. So that we'll have to kind of do a little bit of trimming there because it's a slightly bent, curved stump. I reckon we can get a good couple of cuttings out of this. But before we do that, I'm going to mix up some compost. So what I've got here is a peat-free compost mix with some loam-based, soil-based joininess mixed in, and I'm just mixing in some grit now, horticultural grit, to add to the drainage. Yuccas typically like a soil that isn't too wet, and bearing in mind that they're going to be without any major roots, most of these cuttings, they're going to be without much of a root system for a month or two, so they don't want to be sat in very damp compost, otherwise they can rot off. I often say there's more plants that are killed through overwatering than underwatering, and that it's certainly the case with yuccas. They don't mind being a bit on the dry side. So a bit more grit in there, and then we can get started. Right, well, we're making some progress here. I've cut that what was slightly bent stump, and we've got one short stump with some healthy signs of root just there. I've taken off that bent bit. I'm not sure whether to use that or not. And then I've cut away a portion of that long length of stem, taken off most of the leaves. Now this is the kind of the balancing act we have to kind of have at the moment. So you have to remember that leaves, through transpiration, photosynthesis, they will be losing water. As they transpire, they release water out of the plant into the atmosphere. They help humidify the atmosphere. But when they do that, they demand replacement water through the roots, which we haven't got. So we don't want so many leaves on there that it's getting stressed because it's losing too much water and not having any way of replacing it. So I've removed 2/3. I might remove another couple of leaves yet, so that we just got enough of a bit of green leaf there for the plant to kind of tick over, okay, and provide some energy to get those roots growing. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm actually going to plant 3 cuttings in one pot and see how that works out. So we're going to cut off some more of these leaves off the top section. When I was doing this with my friend, when I was cutting the branches off, we had a bit of a conversation discussing how we felt about massacring plants like this, and could the plants feel anything, and was it stressful for the plants? I don't know the answer to that. I've never heard one complain, but what I do know is that plants are amazingly resilient, and that very often they will respond to this harsh treatment, whether that's a hard prune, or a trim. They will often respond by putting on lots of new growth. So that kind of tough love, we might call it, can actually result in some new life. So I think it's a positive thing. But then I would say that because I'm not the plant that's being pruned. Hey, okay, so we've now got 3 stumps that we're going to get into some compost. Okay, so there we go. We've got a nice chunky pot that we're going to put 3 of these cuttings into. I've filled this up and given it a little tap down just to settle the compost, and put some more compost on top after that compost has settled, if that makes sense. We don't want the compost level sinking down too much, so that we're left with a half filled pot. Somewhere near the top is good. And then all we got to do is get these a few inches of trunk into the soil, bearing in mind that those few inches of trunk have got loads of dormant buds in them. And each dormant bud, potentially, if it's above ground, will produce new leaves, new shoots, which is what we're hoping to get out of there. But below ground, those elements of new growth will be roots, and we will have roots coming off the bottom of that stump. Well, that's the plan anyway. So let's see. We've got this one with the roots already on. I'm just, so that I don't push him in and damage the roots on the way down, I'm just going to open up a bit of a hole there and gently put him in there like that. I'm gently firming around here at the base of each of these stumps. Here goes the last one now, a little ring of 3 of them. I'm gently firming around once I push them in, just to make sure we got good contact between the soil and the stump. That compost has sunk down a bit more, so I'm just going to sprinkle some more around there. There we go. So that's all there is to it. Good game, good game. So now I'm going to put this somewhere where it's not going to get direct sunlight, because that is going to stress the plant. It's going to have some light. I think I'm going to put it, tell you what, I'm going to put it in this greenhouse over here, in the shade of these big pots of, there we go, look, here's our cucumbers and tomatoes all growing very nicely. Just started picking the cucumbers. We've got some more coming there, can you see them? So I'm going to put them in the shade down there. So they're reasonably warm, but not in direct sunlight, because that direct sunlight will cause the leaves to lose more moisture, demand moisture from the roots, which isn't there. And I'm going to give it a little drink. I'm not going to soak it, I'm just going to give it a little drink, so there's some moisture around the stems, but it's not soaking wet. And any excess moisture, of course, because we put that bit of grit in there, will drain out through the bottom. So let's give them a quick drink now. Let's get our watering can in and give that a little drink. There. I think that'll probably do us. You can generally tell from the weight of the compost. Yep, that's plenty damp enough. That's heavy. If it was really light, then it would need more water. So there we go. That's how we are pruning an indoor yucca, houseplant yucca. I suppose in warmer climates, Mediterranean climates, it can be outside all through the year. But here in the UK, it's a houseplant which could pop outside for a month or two in the summer, but most people keep them in the house or a conservatory all through the year. And I'm doing this in late July. I'm hoping that by middle of September, something like that, we might have some roots growing away on there. One of the signs will be either some new leaves on this one, or some little hints of new shoots on these other ones. This one here, that's got the new growth on there, it's possible that new shoot there might die off because of the stress, and that's going to be the most demanding for moisture, is that soft new growth. So that's probably going to be the first casualty, if there is a casualty, but it will still potentially shoot from lower down. Another thing you could do to help protect that kind of vulnerable new growth there, that new shoot, is occasionally to mist. Get some moisture, very fine moisture, misted over those couple of leaves. They're not too much, but that might help keep that little shoot alive, because of its inability to suck up much water through the stem. I might give that a go. We will of course do an update, and if the weather turns a bit nasty before the autumn, we'll pop it into where there's a bit more protection from the weather. But at the moment we're having a heat wave, hooray! So it's going to be perfect in here, warm but mostly shaded. Any questions? We'd love to hear from you. If you've got any thoughts on my comments earlier on about the plants feel anything when we prune them, is it as painful for them as it might look to us? I'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and we'll keep you posted. Bye.